Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you here in Cleveland today. I was talking with Mike backstage. Uh, I was here 8 years ago. Wow, time just flies. And so many things about our field of product leadership changes quickly, and so much of it can actually stay the same. And that's what we're going to talk about today. That in a world of so much change, what are some of the biggest lessons that endure? You just heard from OG talking about what it takes to be a PM for the next 10 years. What's not gonna change between now and then? And, but let's start with the elephant in the room, which is that our world has never been more distracting. More than half of the topics today are about AI, LLMs, and how they're transforming this world. The amazing founders of industry and Mind the Product, our leaders here today, Mike and Paul, have put together a really relevant, topical, up-to-date conference for you. Amazing things to learn. And some of the things that we know in product leadership is that our tools will change, but the fundamentals of delivering user and business value, leading within a company, being customer evangelists, some of those things never change. The way that we do them changes. So I've been in product for about 2 decades. I've had the great pleasure of working with many of these awesome companies, uh, uh, touching millions of customers in lots of different ways. And some of these companies endure. Some of these companies built the stepping stones for the companies of today. As a leader, I think to myself, gosh, well, how could I get better? What could I do more of? And I asked myself this one thing over and over again, which is how could I have made more impact? It's actually not always about what is the miss that I had that could have been better. It's oftentimes how could I have made the thing that was good? How could I have made that great? Because the most valuable products that we all use today are not a giant set of good products. We use a small number of great products with most of our time. So this is what I wanted to distill for you from all of these lessons and all of the scars from these companies. What are the things that, when I look back, actually could have and have made the most difference? Now, like any good product people, we need frameworks. Here's a simple one, which is you can think about any system as direction, people, or process. And gosh, and direction, all of these wonderful topics on strategy, people and org structure and process and agile and AI tools, etc. Any one of these topics is an awesome conversation on the stage today. Every single one of these topics is being disrupted by AI. But when I look back for the last 20 years, which are the ones where I wish I could have done more, where I could have made a bigger impact? And it's actually these four that I'm going to take you through: prioritization, business model, org structure, and process. All right, let's dive in. The first lesson is about the business engine. What do I mean by that? It's how does your business work? Well, we have this conventional product idea, this ideal that, gosh, we are the customer advocates. OG spent a big chunk of his talk talking about how we can now use AI tools to synthesize 10 different sources of customer input to really understand our customers. We have this really unique vantage point of being that they're evangelists, they're champions, rooting for them. And gosh, if we understand the user, we can drive value for them, we can help drive their business goals. Here's where I went wrong. I joined a company called Udacity some number of years ago in 2013. It was the beginning of this age of massive open online courses where we would put an AI class online and 200,000 people would sign up for it. Unbelievable. Why would 200,000 people sign up for a free online AI class? Well, it was built by amazing thought leaders. It was produced really well. And we suddenly were finding we were creating these amazing classes with hundreds of thousands of people starting them. Like any good product, folks, we'd look at this and say, gosh, there's some kind of product market fit here. Users are adopting this. They love it. Let's go figure out how to scale this thing and grow, deliver user value, build a business. Well, what we found is lots of people would start the classes. They'd be really excited. They'd start for a whole bunch of different reasons. We'd ask them to pay for benefits like a credential and extra support. Not that many people would pay. Not that many people would make it to month 2. Very few would finish the class. Now, putting our product hats on, how could we understand the user pain points, drive more user value? And we thought about our product roadmap that included different pricing, different tools, different content and functionality, um, Do we make the pages faster? Do we make mobile apps? This was back in 2013. We probably spent 6 to 9 months going down this path of how do we make life easier for our users. The problem is we didn't understand the business. The actual business opportunity that we had is, and what were people willing to pay for, is give me something that will advance my career. 90% of people were curious. 10% of people were serious and wanted to advance their career and were willing to pay for that. Serving the 90% of people who were really excited and made our investors like Andreessen Horowitz really excited, that helped drive venture funding, didn't actually matter that much to the business. Once we actually figured out from the business perspective what these folks needed, the people who were willing to pay, that made all the difference. I spent so much time on you, and so my mistake was I spent so much time on user empathy, I forgot about the business engine. And I wasted probably 6 to 9 months of roadmap on this, on very reasonable ideas. Now, gosh, if you can amend that lesson to not just understand the user to drive the user value and business goals, but you got to understand the user and the business right up front. You got to advocate for the business problem that you're solving immediately, not just only understand the user. That was the big lesson that I've taken with me over and over again. What did we do? Once we figured out that our users wanted something that mattered for their careers, we built a business credential for them called a nano degree. We made the classes more work product oriented. We said you actually have to take 6 classes to get this credential instead of 1 class, but that companies like Google and AT&T would recognize the credential. Immediately, every metric doubled. Page speed didn't matter, mobile app didn't matter, faster tools and lower friction didn't matter. What mattered was solving the business problem and the pain point for the user that matched a business need. So if you think on other companies, can you articulate your own business engine in a sentence? Can you articulate other businesses? What does Netflix do? They built a great direct-to-consumer business by providing easy-to-use, awesome content, original and licensed. Other stuff doesn't matter as much. Google has created amazing free tools for billions of users with which they use to monetize through advertising. Or this was their primarily Google business engine. And Costco uses, through membership fees, high buying power to offer low-cost, high-quality, small selection of goods. This is the core business engine that they've polished and polished and polished and made amazing businesses. So the question to you is, do you know your business engine? Can you understand it? Can you articulate it in a sentence? Because if you can't, and your engineers can't, and your designers can't, or your CEO doesn't understand it, and marketing doesn't understand it, you're going to be building the wrong thing, and you're going to be wasting your time. So this is a lesson that I learned early as a leader that I've brought with me, and that has really helped speed up value. Lesson 2, org design. Look at this beautiful picture up here of this org design of a product leader, 3 zone leaders and 13 PMs in these beautiful manicured areas. Isn't it our ideal to have these stable, empowered squads and zones? And this is a wonderful place to get to, where you have area ownership and organizational partnership, autonomy within the squads, and thought leadership within each of these areas. This is an awesome place to get to. So the problem that I had, and the lesson that I learned, is designing an org that's too beautiful like this, too conventionally ideal, can slow you down and actually distract you from winning. I'll give you an example. When I was at XO Group, it was a $300 million market cap company that had the knot and the bump, where I was hired to do a turnaround there, right? I got there were 4 major product areas: national advertising, consumer tools, national advertising with articles and media, consumer tools, local service providers like finding your wedding venue, and e-commerce like registries. I had 4 different zones with 4 different product leaders, wonderful product marketing partners everywhere, and sales partnerships and empowered PM leaders. But the business wasn't equally valuable in all 4 of those areas. I wasn't growing revenue and advancing user needs as much as was needed to turn around this company. What I actually needed to do was say, what is the business need? What does the company need? And how should I disrupt the org structure to do that? It's so painful to disrupt a beautiful org structure that you built, but it actually helps you get bigger impact. And so when you change it to something like this, your stable, empowered squads, but you regularly update them for business impact, it can be so meaningful for what you achieve. But it's also painful. I had 4 amazing world-class product leaders, each of which could be on the stage presenting alongside me. I had to actually exit one of them because I no longer had a scope of role for a 4th product leader. This person is amazing. He's gone on to be a CPO at other awesome companies. But it was painful at the time, but the right thing for the company. By actually focusing 50% of our resources on the local services business that was growing the most, taking away most of the resources from the national advertising and media business, which was crashing at the time in 2015, 2016. This actually really helped grow our revenue and our margin and helped the company go from 300 million market cap to over $1 billion market cap by pushing your resources in the right places. So my lesson to you is your org shaped to tackle your biggest opportunities? Because sometimes you get stuck in a beautiful, well-designed, ideal state. Lesson 3 is where to invest in your products. Gosh, sometimes we want to build, we're focusing on the main thing and improving it, scaling it. Sometimes we're having a portfolio of innovation, and it can be hard to know how to balance that. When I was at a company called Chegg, I joined there in 2010, and we had this rocket ship for lending college textbooks. And it in 4 years had gotten to $200 million of revenue. We thought we also needed to do a whole bunch of innovation. We acquired a social network. We started doing digital textbooks in addition to physical textbooks. We started selling textbooks. We started marketing other products in the boxes with the textbooks. And we have all these awesome stories of sending cans of Red Bull that then exploded and lots of unhappy customers that way. All these tests of innovation. When I look back on this, if we had just focused on actually making the textbook rental business even more successful, getting the economics right, knowing how many numbers of which books to offer at what price, I think I could have gotten that business from 200 million to 500 million in 2 to 3 years. But we actually diverted a bunch of those resources to work on other things because we thought we needed to diversify. We had these great investors from Kleiner Perkins saying, oh, go do the social thing and go do this cross-promotional marketing thing. We took our eye off the ball. We did not invest enough in the main thing. So my lesson to you, what I'd actually share with you is, are you investing enough in your winners? If you open up your phone and you use these popular apps, LinkedIn, Instagram, Google Maps, Uber Eats, just 4 examples of popular apps. The main thing is the main thing. There are so many other features in these apps that actually don't matter very much. Did you know that there's this whole gamification thing in Google Maps where you can get points and there's a social network built into Google Maps? Uber Eats can deliver you all these awesome non-food things. But the main thing is the main thing. And what has made each of these apps great is focusing on the brilliant magic of that core reason that you downloaded it. My encouragement to you is ask yourself, are you investing enough in that magical thing? Even in the early days of Facebook and then it turned into Instagram, it became the feed. And making feed better mattered so much more than another version of Marketplace or improving some of the sound editing tools or things like that. Now, not to say that other things of innovation aren't important. It's more that we sometimes can be distracted by that. They're shiny, they're exciting, where there can actually be so much more opportunity. And if you look at the biggest businesses today, I'm even going to talk. We have some awesome sponsors here of SaaS companies. When I think about Jira, I love the products Jira and Confluence, I'm still 90% using the same stuff I was using 10 years ago because they polished it and they made it great. The product managers have worked on many, many other features, but it was so important that they made the core features work really well. So have you optimized your big winner? All right. The fourth lesson, painful lesson, is around process. And gosh, we in product folks, we love to have great processes. We love to have scalable processes, repeatable processes, things that we can get everyone to understand and commit to, and then we can visualize it and we can measure it. Really, really important to know how well our machine is running. We're operational thinkers. So there's this conventional idea that if I can build a best practice, scalable product development process, the machine's going to work magically. And that is true when you come from chaos. Oftentimes, as a new leader, you come into an organization where if they haven't invested in a scalable product process, that's your first job. But it's equally as important to break that process sometimes. So I'll give you an example. So here's an example system where in a product development process, you can have predictable, almost waterfall-like processes that you plan months and months in advance, where there's rigor, certainty, and scalability, like you're doing a replatform. On the other side, you have rapid iterative processes using modern tools, using different code bases. And the point of speed is you've got speed in learning there. And when we're using a dual agile style approach of learning and then development, most projects tend to be in the middle, somewhere to the left, because we've validated a bunch of things. Your infrastructure is over here and your innovation is over here. So when I got to Peloton, I built this process across all of software at Peloton, as I'd done at other companies. And looking to say, okay, I want to push for speed. I want to push for stability and predictability. The problem is that oftentimes this actually isn't fast enough. And you actually need to break this process. The learning at Peloton was that when I got there, we have one of the leading fitness apps. Everyone who has our bikes, treadmills, and rowers gets access to our app. You can also get the app standalone. It's got many powerful features in it. It's also been around for 10 years, and it's overwhelming. I wanted to do innovation inside that app, and the company was like, well, we really only want one app. Marketing wanted one app. The leadership team wanted one app. And when I was looking at customer problems and business opportunities, I was like, well, we need to move faster than this. And the way that we're set up for innovation within this structure is actually still too slow. So I pushed really hard to develop a new app. It was highly controversial. We built a new app called Strength Plus, ground up with a new information architecture, new code base that allows you to work out in the gym. And it doesn't use most of the paradigms of the core app. We built it so much faster and validated and scaled it through that system. We actually broke a bunch of our processes to come up with a second app. But the idea to the company of a new app was almost blasphemous at the time, and now it's been very successful. There are many ways of which you can break your process to be more successful. This is just one example of new code bases and new apps and new websites and new software, etc. But my question to all of you is, are you locked in to the way that the company does things? Do you actually have the flexibility to break out of that, to move faster, to learn faster? So does it make sense to break your process rules? And usually the answer for something is yes. The question is, where does it make sense to break your process rules? Because just like all the other lessons, it's painful to break a rule. So it's got to be valuable, and then you've got to convince the people who disagreed with you. All right, I'm going to bring this back to all of us. In this room, we have folks in product teams, we have product leaders, we have folks who support product leaders. I gave you lessons from the leadership perspective, but this is valuable for all of us. So on the first lesson on knowing your business engine, it is so important for the leader to know that, to set up your org structure, to set up your org strategy, to make sure that the heads of the departments get it. But on your individual teams, it's just as important. Are you solving the right business problem? Does your engineering partner, your designer know that? Is your user researcher, everyone in your shipyard team, are they all getting it and moving in the right direction? Are they solving the right problem? the more likely you within your squad understand the business engine and are solving the right business problem, the more autonomy you'll get, the more success you'll have. On refocusing the org design is usually left to the leaders to have to figure out, and it's painful to change it. Nobody likes having their manager changed. It increases the likelihood that people will leave. It can impact people's careers. There's a lot of friction for changing your org design. But if you're not the leader and you're inside a team, you should be asking yourself, am I in a strategic place? Back at the knot, if you were on the team that was working on national advertising, seeing national advertising decreasing every year, it would have been a good time to say, I'd like to move to a more strategic part of the organization. And in fact, the stronger PMs did. They raised their hands, they told their manager and their manager's manager, they came to me and they said, I would love the opportunity to work in a more strategic part of the organization if there's an opportunity. Which is awesome they did that, because when we rearranged the organization, we already knew people who were willing and excited to move to new problems. I encourage you to have those conversations. It can sometimes feel scary to say to your manager, your manager's manager, I'd like to change teams at some point. But it's actually very good for them to know that, hey, you're loyal, you're succeeding in the team today, but you have an open mind to do something more strategic or different in the future. For investing in winners, as the leader, we talked about, you've got to think about your resource allocation. How much do you invest in innovation versus scaling versus mature products? And is there a lot of growth left? Oftentimes there's so much more growth left in your core product than you might think, and you've got to resource it effectively. But on the product team, ask yourself, is there a big opportunity for me to grow the core product? There've probably been 100 product managers who've touched the LinkedIn feed or the Facebook or feed or Instagram feed, but they've helped grow those businesses so much. And sometimes you reach a point where the growth has stopped, but it's usually a lot farther along than people expect. And so you should ask yourself, is there a strategic opportunity for you to actually help grow the existing business? Because it can be so exciting to go to the new business. And then lastly, on process rules, you should ask yourself, how can I move faster? Where should I break things? And that comes this painful friction from this beautiful system that you've set up. The way I do it is I actually set a reminder on my calendar once a month saying, where can I move faster? What should I consider breaking? You could set a calendar reminder for any one of these things, but I find this one particularly useful to come back to regularly. What's changed about my company? What's changed about my customer, my business, and where should I be moving faster? And then what do I need to break? The powerful thing if you're on a product team is to actually pitch that process break. Go to your manager and say, we're not moving fast enough. We should do something different. We should do a different code base. We should use a different tool. We should go after a different customer. Many of the AI topics you're going to learn about today are these awesome new opportunities for you to pitch changes of how we work. But I encourage you to use it as a lens of how can you use that as a tool to make your company more successful, and go to people more senior than you who may not be paying attention to say, we should use this and here's the business impact. So this is what I have for you. If I had done each one of these lessons cost me a year of team in focus, development, customer impact, business impact. Each one of them I've tried to learn and take with me to the next company. I get it right a lot of the time. I don't always get it right, which is why I have to keep coming back to these lessons. And I share them with you today because I hope that for some of you, you could go back to your companies and use this now. Or it might be the type of thing that 3 months, 6 months, a year from now, one of these experiences that I mentioned from Peloton, Chegg, The Knot, and Udacity might be relevant and come up at that time and be useful for you to them. So on that note, I want to thank you all. Thank you for building impactful products, and it's so great to spend time with you today. Thank you.